Hi everyone, let's talk about inputs today. Not a complicated subject, but definitely an essential one. I will show you a few examples which will cover everything you need to know about inputs, how to set them, how to read them, how to watch for changes. So let's go with the first example. I have an app component with two variables and two functions which change the age, and the second one which change the name. So whenever I click the button, the value changes. And I have a second component, test component, which has two inputs, name and age. And in app component, this is how I set the inputs. The important thing is how the ng on changes lifecycle hooks works with the inputs. So let's implement on changes. And make the function. It takes one argument changes, for example, of type SimpleChanges. And let's console log the changes. Save. As you can see, we have the console log here with age and name. So we have the first invocation of the function on the initial set of the inputs, but then whenever I change any of the inputs, the ng on changes function is triggered. What if we want to only do something when one particular input changes? We have two ways to achieve that. First option is to add an if statement here, which changes if we have the desired property on the changes object. And only then do something. So now when I change the name, we don't have additional console logs here, but when I change the age, we have console logs. Another possibility is to, instead of doing something in ng on changes, we can make a private variable age and change the input to the input setter. Save, change age. As you can see, we have the console logs of the value, but now we only react on changes to this particular input, and we don't react to changes for this input. An important thing to note is that this name still has to match this name. Of course, the changes to this input are still reflected in the HTML template. So you can see that Joe changes to John. What I'm saying is that we are not firing any function on this input change, like in case of the ng on changes lifecycle hook. And you may also have noticed that we are not displaying age anymore, and that's because now our variable is not age, but underscore age, and actually to use it in template, we have to make it public like that and change it here, add the underscore, and everything is working again. That's it for the first example. See you in the next one. Welcome to the second example. I made some changes. I will quickly brief you. So the first change is that we no longer have two variables. We have one variable which is an object of type user. It has name and age. So we only have one input here and one input here. And let's see how it works. We don't need that for now. So what's the default behavior with objects? When I change age, we can see that the changes are reflected in the HTML, but the console log is not showing. Why is that? It is because the onChanges is only invoked when the reference of the input changes. So we need to get a new instance of the user object in order to have the onChanges function invoked. As you can see, the randomize age function is just changing the property. But if instead of doing that, we did something like this, now the onChanges is invoked. But it may be that we only want to reflect the changes in the HTML if the reference has changed, and we can accomplish that by changing the change detection strategy. So now, even if we don't change the reference, we can see changes in the HTML. And if I uncomment this line and change, nothing happens in the HTML. But if I switch this again, so that we make a new instance of the user, the changes are visible in the HTML. When I click name, it doesn't work because here we are just changing the property instead of assigning new instance of the object to the user variable. Yeah, so that's it for the second example. I have one more, so see you in a minute. Welcome to the third example. It's the quickest one, I would say. So I just wanted to let you know that this changes object contains some useful information. So for example, we have the user property which has changed, and you can see what's the current value, what's the previous value, and you can also see that we have a first change property which we can use for some logic. So you may want to do something different on the first change and something different on the second and next changes. It comes quite handy in some situations, and it's definitely worth to know. So that's it for the inputs. I think that we have covered all the essential functionalities, and I hope you liked it, and thank you for watching. See you in next video.